and a little bit of office supplies. So that one's really simple.
It really is.
It is. I like them like that. The next one, the water fund. So for next year, there's basically no increase in water funds that I'm recommending. What the authority decides to do is their choice. We do have to deal with Center Crest leaving. And we got a new accounting system for me, and Barbie's working on her new billing system. So that's going to come into play, but it all seems to be working out right now. We're also looking at a new GPS system for the vehicles that'll be spread out across all of the funds. So that amounts to about $1,500. And then I put money in for the stamp implementation. So that's kind of that one in a nutshell.
So Lori, where do those additional items appear in this budget?
I'm sorry, say that again.
So where does the stamp issue, the GPS, and all show up in this budget? What lines?
So the stamp is $497. The GPS is $260.
260, is that the tools and minor equipment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Matt had a look.
Is that because GPS are like pieces of equipment that get stuck in the vehicles?
Right.
Okay.
So that's just for the outlay of the equipment. Then there's a monthly fee that's in there too. So
would that go under like in the same area, or would that go on a different line?
No, that one under contracted services.
Data processing?
No, 450. Contracted services.
Okay.
So that one's that one real quick.
John Eaton?
Yes, go ahead, John.
I can't honestly believe that I'm saying this, but on both the water and the sewer budgets, now that our pension MMO has dropped from like 501,000 last year down to something around 113,500 for our non-uniform people. Why are we having the transfers from these funds from water, sewer, and refuse over to the general fund?
Well, because it's not just for the MMO. All of us, Ralph, me, Barbie, Melissa, Kathy, we all do stuff on the water, sewer, and refuse, but all of our wages are paid out of the general fund. So, plus usually the general fund will pay for things like if they get a big thing of, I don't know, oil or DEF or something, a lot of times the general fund will pay for it, but they all use it. So, and if I pull all of that out at once, the general fund's going to be hurting. So I reduce it, but if I pull it out at once, how are you going to make up all that revenue? Plus, it's not right to pull it out.
Well, but the thing is, we're going to have a reduction in the bill, in our bills of a little bit over $380,000.
But that's not the only thing that's in that transfer.
Well,
like I said, all of our wages, all of our health insurance, all of everything that for all of us upstairs comes out of the general fund. But I don't work only on the general fund. Neither
Well-
does Ralph. Neither does Barbie. Barbie does utility billing. If anything, hers should come out more from the water, sewer, refuse.
Well, so that when we get the general fund budget, then we'll see the $380,000 reduction over there.
Well, there was a reduction in the retirement expense.
Right,
took
but
that down.
it's gotta be about $380,000.
No, that's usually what ours ran. Till you take off the amount we get from the state, it's not going to amount to that much. So this one came down. It came down about $20,000. In water, the sewer came down. But I don't know what we're going to get from an MMO either. So it's better to be it high and not need that much. There's a whole lot of unknowns in these budgets this year. I don't know how much we're going to get for MMOs. We're not replacing people right away. There's a whole lot of things going on in here that are unknowns.
I understand what you're saying, but we've been told that our MMO is going down significantly. And we've
The
had a
MMO
reduction.
isn't the only part of it. There's also the defined contribution portion of it that we still have to meet the match.
Yeah,
So the MMO is only for the defined benefit, not the defined contribution.
No, I disagree. The memos that we get on MMO, we get a memo for both the defined benefit, we get a memo for the cash balance plan, and we also get a memo for the police budget. And
right.
The cash balance plan is 37.8 thousand for next year, and the defined benefit plan is 75.7 for next year. That comes out to $113.5 thousand for next year. The previous year, it was just a hair under $501,000. So that's $380,000 reduction.
A big chunk of it will come out of the general fund because the money that comes into the general fund goes out of the general fund. So when we get the Act 205 money, it comes into the general fund and goes back out there. So that will be part of it. But the money that they put on the MMO for the defined contribution is not the only amount that goes. The way it works is Barbie does a spreadsheet each quarter of what the guys put in, and we have to match it.
Mm-hmm.
It's right. So when you take what we paid this year for those 4 quarters, plus what our MMO is going to be for the defined contribution or defined benefit, you still have to cover all that.
Mm-hmm.
So these funds covered their portion of that.
Okay. I'm just looking at what we previously got for Act 205 funds.
Well, do you know what we're going to get next year for 205? Because I don't know.
Well, I'm assuming it'll follow the trend that we've had, or that they've shown for the last 10 years.
But they're not going to give us more than what our MMO is.
And right now, your MMO for next year is less than what you got or than what you would have got last year from the Act 205 funds. So
Right.
basically
I don't think they're gonna give us more than our MMO.
well, that means you have no expense for those pension plans.
If they give us less than our MMO, we do have an expense.
But if what they give you matches your MMO, which previously you got more than what next year's MMO is scheduled to be, yes, they will give you less, but it will basically say you will pay nothing for your retirement plan.
I'm not willing to bet on that. I'm not willing to bet on that. I'm not willing to bet that they're going to cover our total expense.
Okay.
Which line item are we talking about?
Randy, can you repeat that? I couldn't hear you.
What line item are we discussing? It's hard when a question is asked and you're not given a line item to go to follow all this.
So it's 197. It'll be the same in water, sewer, and refuse. It's 197.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm not willing to bet that they're going to cover it all. I'm not willing to go there.
Okay.
If you do that and you don't get enough, how are you going to make it up?
Well, I guess my point is right now we seem to have a significant, we seem to have a fairly, you're charging, I think, about 6.5% to 7% for most of the accounts. Okay, which should cover everything, but that doesn't answer the question of, I'm not sure where the transfers come from, because when the transfers go over to the general fund and we have this reduction in the MMOs that, okay, let's say it's only a $300,000 reduction. That's got to show up somewhere in the budget.
Will show up. It showed up partly in here in the reduction of the retirement expense.
Okay.
And what they transferred over to the general fund did go down some, but we still have to cover our wages, our health insurance, our life insurance. That's for all of us upstairs.
Okay. And that, you
And
say
like-
all of that would be you, Barbie, and Dawn and Ralph, right?
And Melissa and Alyssa.
Is that $300,000?
We're only
Well,
doing
it's-
water, sewer, and refuse here. We haven't gotten into the general fund yet.
Right, but what I'm saying is when you did the transfer, what you've transferred over is 90,000 in water, 185 in sewer, and 75 in refuse. So,
Okay.
so that's
And like
gonna-
I said, go ahead.
that's $350,000 altogether.
So
So
John, what I'm hearing Lori say, tell me if I'm wrong, Lori, so is that transfer not only includes retirement funds, but funds to pay for other related expenses that we pay out of the general, so like Social Security and taxes and things like that. Is that correct? And that's why it seems higher than what this retirement issue is. Is that correct?
Right, we pay other things. Plus, if I take it down too much at one time, we're going to have to raise taxes in the general fund to cover it. We can't take it down. I've been taking it down a little bit each year. You can't take it down all at one time. Are you going to raise taxes 5 mils to cover it?
No. but I'm just trying to track where this transfer is when we have a reduction in costs. We're having a reduction in costs. It's supposed to be around 380,000 relative to our pension costs. Okay. So unless the general fund budget ends up being drastically altered, I'm not sure where we ever see this $380,000 reduction.
John, the way I'm looking at it, if I'm looking at 197 in the 2020 budget under, for example, refuse, she budgeted 52,500. Next year, she only budgeted 16,000. There's a reduction.
There
The
is,
water fund, it's the same thing. I mean, that's the transfer that'll be going over. So when you do see the general, when it's finished, you should see the overall reduction there, I would think.
that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to see where that's going to occur.
I don't know how to explain it any differently. They've reduced their retirement expense in this fund. So that's part of the reduction of the expense. The fund itself reaped the benefit. This one went down from 58,000 to 30,000. The sewer went down from 92,000 to 44,000. Right there's reductions in the funds.
Right. And I'm just saying I'm looking to see that across the board, and then when we get over into the general fund, because to me it almost looks like there's not a significant change in the water or sewer budgets to indicate that there's going to be any changes in rates there. Okay. So, if we get over to the general fund, I'm sort of expecting there's going to have to be a reduction over there, or somehow we had a reduction in costs that we never see in the budget.
I think, John, I think I finally, so you're talking about the reduction in the MMO isn't being reflected in the overall number. Like, for example, if you're looking at the water fund, 197, you're dropping from 58 to 30, $28,000 reduction, but you're not seeing it up top on the revenue. She still has the approximately 1.494 and 1.445. That's where you want to see the reduction is in the bottom line number.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Don. It's either we're going to say there's a reduction in expense in these business enterprises, water, sewer, and refuse, that possibly could be reflected in a rate reduction to our customers, or that reduction in the MMO has to show up over in the general fund, which will be, I should be seeing some justification that says our property taxes or our EIT would be lower. That's what I'm struggling with. I don't see, we had a reduction in cost of around 380,000, and I'm not seeing that appear anywhere in the budgets.
From what I see, you're only seeing a portion of it, in a smaller portion in each one of these funds. And I think as Lori mentioned when she first started, there were a couple things added in addition, probably to the regular expenses that are going to go up every year no matter what. That probably might have eaten into that relatively small increase for each particular fund. on the
Exactly.
MMO only.
Like you're focusing on one thing, the MMO, where there's a whole other budget here. And whether the rates go up or down isn't up to this board. It's up to the authority. So they can choose to up or reduce or increase the rate. That's their choice.
Yeah, and
So,
that's all I'm saying. I'm not in charge of whatever the authority wants to do. I just am, if I got a $380,000 reduction in the cost, that's close. If it was just real estate taxes, that'd be 4 mils.
these are only one piece of the pie, and we haven't even gotten to the general fund yet. So I think this is going to be a moot point at this point until we get to the general fund and I get it worked through.
Okay.
There's more to this than just the MMO. Everything else goes up in cost.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to see just the 380,000. It's not how it works.
I understand that, and that's why I sort of go through the budget and I try to figure out where the offsetting increases are, and I wasn't quite seeing those.
Well, there's a overtime wages increases by $10,000. There's one bit right there.
Add that number to this regular time and then compare it to the previous year's budget.
Okay.
Lori, answer this question for me. At the end, after you have the general fund completed, if John were to go back and look at that line item 197 and all the funds, he should probably be able to add all the differences between 20 and 21, and it'll add up to 380,000, correct?
Not going to be exactly that amount because you have to have the defined contribution in there. And that is the 5% that the borough has to match. And everybody gets a raise next year. So you still have to put in however much that is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So
well, let's just not on exact numbers, but it'll be ballpark. It'll be close.
Right.
Correct?
But you're also going to see a reduction in the revenue on the general fund side. So, yeah, I don't remember how much the MMO was for this year without going back and looking, but it's about 75,000 for the non-uniform for next year. So I have to cover the 75,000 plus the defined contribution for 2021, plus the police. But the police is easy because theirs just hits one line item. It doesn't get spread over all the funds. So, all right, on to sewer. The same thing is true of this. It gets a portion of the GPS system, a portion of the new accounting and billing. I am recommending a $5 a quarter increase to the authority in this one, only because this one is still trying to make up the money from before. It's always a really tight budget. Bob always puts in everything under the sun in his items that he budgets for, so he covers everything that could happen. And so it never turns out that it's a perfect storm and everything happens. So I usually put some money to the use of reserves that we don't usually need to use. It's just a way of making sure that he feels comfortable partly that everything that he is worried about will be covered. He never has enough time to do everything that's on here. Not everything goes wrong at one time. So that's how I work it, that he gets everything covered. So it's up to the authority what they want to do, if they want to increase rates or not. So that's that one.
Lori,
And
how
then
much
the
is
one-
the $5 a quarter increase? I guess that's $20 per customer. What revenue are you generating from that overall? Do you know?
It's about 60,000, and again, we have to cover the loss of revenue from Centercrest, and in the water fund, that loss of revenue is almost $40,000, and in the sewer fund, it's about $31,000. So we have to cover that loss of revenue, because we're still going to have the treatment. We still have to treat at the sewer plant. Now, there will be a reduction in some of that, but I don't know how to calculate that impact. That will come out. We'll see that next year, and then we can calculate it better. So it comes out to about 60,000, but it's partly covering that $31,000
So is
that
that
we're going
line,
to do.
is that line 110 in revenue?
Yeah.
A question I guess I have is that, I mean, we're going to get paid a certain amount, but it's just going to come from Spring Benner Walker Authority, correct?
We'll still get paid from Spring Benner Walker Authority, yes. And they pay based on flows for operating. And then they pay a flat 42% for capital. So, yeah, I'm figuring that for operating, that's going to go up a little bit next year. So it depends on their flow. That percentage changes each quarter. That's why it's really important that we do the inflow and I&I. We make sure that we don't have leaks in our lines, because that affects that percentage. And this year we didn't get to do any of that because of COVID. So we usually try to do some of that every year. Okay, so refuse. This is the one that you do have control over. Again, we're gonna lose money from Centercrest. I had that written down. I don't know how to deal with it. So this one is a little bit different. It's going to be more of a 1-to-1 ratio of the reduction of cost and the reduction of revenue, because this one, they will reduce our tipping, the tons that we tip, and so we lose their revenue, but we also reduce how much we tip at the transfer station. So it's going to be more of a 1-to-1. So it's a little bit different in this one. We do know, we've got an email from Ted Onufrak that said that as of right now, and this isn't final, the tipping fee is going to go up $6 per ton. Curbside is going to go up 19 cents. The commercial is going to go up $2.10, and cardboard's going up $7.25. So we can pass those directly, those curbside, commercial, and cardboard directly through to the users. But because we lost an employee and didn't replace him, and we're not replacing him next year, that's going to reduce our costs. So basically, if we pass those straight through, we still have a good bit of money that we can put over into capital projects. I have $100,000 going over. We can change that we can reduce the rates. That's up to you. And I think probably we should think about increasing the brush grass collection from $10 to $15, just because to get it up to where it should be, it would be easier to do it a little bit at a time. So it's up to you guys what you want to do with that.
So right now, you said that individuals are paying how much per can, brush can?
Right now it's $10 per can,
Right.
so that would take it to 15. And so just to cover our costs of sending a crew out, one of the things is, I think, Dawn, don't they send out maybe do the refuse guys pick that up, or does the water street guys pick that up?
Refuse does, Lori.
Do they?
Yes.
So if we increase that by $5 and then just straight pass through the curbside, commercial, and cardboard, I don't think we need to increase the rate for anything else.
So on line 307, you've said the budget's rate's $3,000 more than it was for the 2020. Does that include the $5 increase you're talking about?
Say that again.
Okay. In the 2020 budget on line 364.307, it says that we budgeted 8,000, we brought in 7490. So, and we passed a resolution going to cap the number of cans for next year and then put everybody else on a wait list. I think that was
Right.
750. Then you said
Right.
for the 2021 budget, you've got $11,000 listed
Right.
here. Revenue. Does that $11,000 incorporate your suggested $5 increase?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lori, could you go through the increases again? I got curbside 19 cents, cardboard $17.25, but I missed the other ones.
The cardboard's $7.25.
That's a big difference. Okay, thanks.
And commercial is $2.10.
Okay. What was the tipping?
The tipping went up $6.
Okay.
Now, he did say that's not final. They're still looking at trying to hopefully decrease some of that. So by the time we need to pass our fee resolution, we should have final numbers and we can just pass those directly through. But right now, that's what it's setting at.
So Lori, with these increases, looking at the 2020 and the 2021 budgets, some of these I've noticed are going down, and all of them are going down, even though you're saying the total expenses are going down, even though the individual price is going up. Why?
Because we're gonna lose money from Center Crust,
Okay.
so you have to take that into account.
Okay.
The other thing, we're using 3 people in the department instead of 4. So
Right.
some of the personnel expenses are gonna be lower.
Okay.
Mhm.
You know, Lori, I just doing a rough calculation, and I don't even think we pick up grass and brush more than 30 days a year. And if I charged $100 per employee each, that would be $200 per employee for 30 days. That only comes up to about $6,000.
Well, but there's gas.
I know you do have equipment costs too,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I overinflated the personnel costs significantly. I'm just wondering if,
We don't have to do that. That was just
I mean, we really jacked refuse last year. I mean, we had curbside increase. We had an increase in just our regular fees. I was kind of hopeful that with only going to 3, with dropping it to a third person, that, you know, we'd be able to go a few more years and keep people at, you know, relatively clean in this fund without increasing it again. I'm not saying I'm against a $5 increase. I'm just I'd like to be able to make sure we can justify it, that's all.
We don't have to pass through the increases from the transfer station. I guess that's what I thought.
That part I definitely would do any pass through. I definitely would do. I mean, because that's where we got in trouble before. We weren't recycling. We weren't passing that through, and then we had to do one big one last year to get caught up.
Right. So those are straight pass-throughs, but
I think Don's talking about the line 307 grass and brush collection fee, increasing that.
Right. Right. If we don't do anything different, we can just pull it back to 7,500 again.
Lori, was your projected 100,000 into capital projects, did that include your recommendation to increase brush from 10 to 15?
Mm-hmm. Right. So if we pull that back to the 7,500, we just adjust the capital project, transfer to capital projects.
Now that tells me, Lori, there's something I would be okay. I mean, I could hang my hat on because next year we'll probably be going in for another 902 grant, $350,000. That's going to go entirely towards the composting facility or the Musser Lane. Doug's got the acronym. Can't think of Musser Lane compost.
MLRC.
Yeah. So I mean that then I would be okay if that money, you know, that we used to match went towards that. That's something that I could at least feel comfortable telling residents. Well, you know, we're doing more down at the composting facility.
And I think that makes sense. I think, Don, that makes excellent sense because we're going to improve the composting facility and the brushes, that's where it's landing at. Fitting those two together makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd be okay with that.
That extra, anything that was extra that went through, I mean, we don't usually budget anything to transfer to capital projects. And so I had enough to transfer the 100,000. So we can use it for whatever we want. You know, if we want to put a down payment on a truck eventually, or if we want to use it for a match for a grant, but yeah, it's all going, and that's also the trickle down from the having one guy less. It's less wages, it's less Social Security, health insurance, retirement, all of that. So, that's where I put the money that we would get extra from all of that is over into capital projects. We haven't been able to put any money over there like that for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, next year with the 902, I'd like to go after another tractor, conveyor belt, and a bin, and so that we could put the composting into bags and so forth, and maybe we would then be able to start even selling it for 50 cents a bag, make it easier for people to pick up and go.
Yeah, so, I mean, I didn't put any of that in here because it's not a given, but.
No, that wouldn't be in 2021. We'd be looking at 2022.
Okay. Yeah, but that money, I mean, I think anytime you can get money over into capital projects, it's a plus. So, like I said, I didn't do anything with the tipping fee increase because when we're putting 100,000 over into capital projects, I don't think it's right to increase all of just the regular garbage rate.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Randy.
Mhm.
Well, if we're talking salary expenses and thing, everything goes down because we're going one less person. It looks like it's, we went from 275 to 215 in 21. Yet the only thing I see going up there is overtime to 20,000, where it's for 20 it was 12,035 so far. So why do we need
And
to
I-
increase overtime if I'm reading that?
Because because we haven't done tracked overtime, and I know that because they are a person short, I see overtime going in. And this was such an off year that I'm not sure how overtime's going to track next year.
Lori, I would say too, that this could have something to do with it. Back in 19, on the Saturdays for the composting site, Matt and Dave they were splitting it up among all the departments. And I think last year they made it that the refuse department had to start working every Saturday. So there might have been more overtime due to that.
Plus
Okay.
the number of brush and grass containers is off the charts. That's, you remember, we capped it and said we can't issue any more, but put you on a waiting list if you want one. That day was definitely an overtime day. And then if we had a holiday, we skip a week. So there's twice as much grass, like July 4th or whatever. The following week is twice as much grass. So I know those are very long days for the refuse personnel. I think that's where a lot of the overtime is, but we can check with and verify those numbers.
Yeah, I would say that, Randy, my answer to that too would be a small increase in overtime is better than having that fourth guy. If we probably even conveyed to Matt and Dave, look, if the guys need to be safe and work in a safe manner and work an extra half hour, an hour, we were okay with that, knowing that they were down a guy. We didn't want them to have to rush to try to hurry to get things done. We said, just take your time, be safe, and do it the right way. And if you end up having to take another hour, we were okay.
So are the guys working one per truck?
In one truck and two guys on another truck.
One truck is designed really for one person. The other truck really, most likely you need two people. So that I think the numbers are justifiable, the personnel that we have now.
We're probably going to see a little bit more savings too, because the team leader is retiring in February. And I mean, the person that will replace him with won't be anywhere near the money that he's making. So there'll be another decrease there.
Doug wants to say something.
Any chance in using a seasonal worker for the aid on that truck?
We are short, something we had talked to the union.
Yeah, we'd have a union problem there.
Yeah, we'd have to make sure we have an agreement on that.
They'll never go for that.
Not when you left somebody, you're not replacing a position.
Right. It's a good thought though, Doug.
Any
And
other,
because of the increase in the tipping fee, I think I will adjust the special collections a little bit. Just because the tipping fee is increased and we haven't increased those rates in a while. I'm not sure that we're covering the cost of some of that stuff. So I may adjust some of that stuff a little bit. Some of the stuff that we're taking up, people could take themselves. So possibly trying to get people to take some of their own stuff up if they possibly can.
Is the
And
other,
again,
is the other recycling expense the things like someone comes in and wants you to pick up their mattress?
right,
Okay,
there's
That's
special
a
collection.
collection.
well, that's a special, okay,
Yeah. And all those are laid out on the fee schedule, Joanne.
okay. Yeah, that I understood, but I was looking at this budget and seeing what this other recycling expense was. I was wondering if that's where that lands at.
Yeah. And the revenue this year was way down from that, but again, this was such an odd year. I was afraid to over budget for the special collections, but we also don't know what's going to happen next year, so I think it's better to be cautious.
By the way, just for council, while we're on refuse, having riffraff in the fall, we picked up a lot less tonnage than we would when we do it in May. Significant.
So are you saying we should just continue doing it in the fall?
I'm just saying that we probably saved a lot of backs and we didn't pick up as much and we didn't have as much a tipping fee as we normally would have. So there would be some benefits to doing it in the fall.
Yeah, you can find it all in the ditch down at the end of Fifth Avenue.
I don't think that would be the case in a normal year. I think that because so many people were like at home from February on, they were cleaning out their places and a lot of that went to Goodwill and the secondhand stores that normally would have been put on the sidewalk.
That sounds good to me.
It's just a theory.
I think they just got tired of looking at it and took it to the dump themselves.
I think that would be a good survey to follow up with as far as the residents and when they prefer to put out something for riffraff, because maybe it, like I said, we changed the clock and the time of pickup this year. And how much are they going to have for, if we go back to the spring, how much is somebody going to have from October to May or April, whatever month we have it, as opposed to staying with October or November?
I think part of the reason we had phone calls, people were, even though we put the message out there that it changed, again, people don't pay attention. So I think a lot of people didn't realize it was in the fall until they saw other people putting their stuff out. So if you did it on Friday, you put your stuff out, but if you were Monday, you missed it. So I think it was partly we didn't realize.
Yeah.
No matter how much you put it out there, people tend to not pay attention.
Oh, honey, what's that stack of garbage out there stacked up in my next door? I don't know what's going on. Well, they put out a lot of stuff.
Why does it look like mine?
That's just my observation from the phone calls that we got. A lot of, yes, it's this week. What day's your garbage? No, you missed it. So that was my impression from the phone calls that we got.
Oh, you mean they didn't say, can't you come around and pick it up?
Well, I don't know if they said that. I just know I heard a lot of, yes, it's this week. What day's your garbage? So sorry you missed it. So we could get slammed again in the spring if everybody keeps their stuff and puts it out in the spring.
Okay, well, we have 5 more minutes. Is there any other comments on these budgets? I guess not. Do you all want to take a 5-minute break and then we'll start back at 7:30?
Sure. Sounds good.
Okay, sounds good. See you all in 5 minutes.
Alice, I think she's with Mary. Mary went over to the church to do some setup.
How many days was it he was in the, track?
Because one of them likes to run outside, the other one,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, Randy's not yet.
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I'm here.
Okay, did everybody get the email on the State College connector?
What?
No,
There was an email come out about an MPPO meeting, a PennDOT meeting, talking about the State College connector. It came out.
I did see it, but I believe I'm not going to be available at that hour.
It started on October 28th and it runs through November 4th. I don't know if there's time to even say anything about it.
I thought it had an hour, time frame in there.
It did October 28th to November.
No, I
4th,
mean an hourly during the day.
5:30 through 11 p.m.
Oh,
Are we even a stakeholder in that?
I don't know. That's what I'm
I
wondering.
don't think we are.
so is Mayor Wilson back?
Then I'll just not mention it.
His speaker's off.
Okay, it looks like everybody except the mayor's. Should I go ahead and get started?
We could, and if he's some reason not back, we could come back to him.
Okay. CNET, are you ready to start the video again?
That's a yes.
Good evening, everyone. The November 2nd Bellefonte Borough Council meeting is called to order. We had an executive session at 6 o'clock dealing with real estate and some legal issues. And 6:30, we worked on 4 different sets of budgets in the 2021 budget. I'd like to have a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence in anticipation of a safe and smooth running election for tomorrow. Pledge allegiance
to the
to
flag
the flag
of
of
the
the
United
United
States of America,
and to the
and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Indivisible,
liberty and
liberty and
justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
roll call, please.
Mr. Prendergast,
present.
close the flag here. Thank you. Ms. Thompson,
Here.
Ms. Tosti Vasey,
I'm here.
Ms. Walker,
I'm here.
Mr. Brackville,
Here,
Ms. Cleaton is excused. Mr. Eaton,
I'm here.
Ms. Hombowski,
Present.
Mr. Johnson,
Present.
Mayor Wilson.
Present.
Need a motion to approve the minutes?
so moved, Brackville.
Second, Johnson.
Any changes?
Joanne, I did see a correction. Now I can't find it. think it says Johnson instead of Randy. I think it was page 4, about the middle. Doggone it, I can't find my note.
So change,
Yeah, it's on page number 3. I think it was Mr. Brackville, not Johnson. Are there special committee reports?
to Brackville, okay.
Randy, do you agree with that?
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Any other changes? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes with that one change, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Doesn't look like there's anything on the consent agenda.
There's a few things that are spread out like down on finance, but we have nothing there.
Okay, so move on to written communications.
First one is a letter from Bellefonte EMS in regard to their funding request. They're, as you are aware, looking at going to 2/5 of a mil or 0.4 of a mil. And you have that information. The next item I mentioned at the last meeting, I was hand delivered a petition with residents of the 400 block of East Beaver and East Curtin interested in keeping the right of way behind their houses, or what would be Ardell Lane, the extension of Ardell Lane, open as a thoroughfare so that a private owner, property owner, does not take it over. But this is the physical copy of the petition. I wanted to, officially let you have it, and you can direct it accordingly.
Yeah. So I think the public needs to know is that the Streets Committee is meeting on site there this coming Thursday at noon. And we'll be meeting with some of these community members then, and then we'll have a recommendation, bring it back to council.
Sure. Next item is a letter we received from the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection in regard to the sewer line extension in Benner Township that would go to Shiloh Road, or the exit off of I-99 of Shiloh Road, or near Shiloh Road. And basically the letter, just paraphrasing, there were some deficiencies in the application or the permit materials sent to DEP. And we were copied in as a borough authority that the deficiencies need to be addressed before the permit could be reconsidered. So it's there for your information.
I think there was a section on there that said that part of the deficiency there wasn't any comments from Bellefonte Borough on this. So what I would like to do is refer this to the Safety Committee to review and consider if there are any comments that we want to make. And if not, we'll just send that when Benner decides, if they decide to start this over again, we could send those comments along to help them out.
That's fine. The same letter is going to the borough authority at their regular meeting.
Right. There was two sections. Said one of them had to do the authority, one of them had to do with council. So for
Sure.
the council part, that's why I'm suggesting that.
Sure.
I'd like to add a comment to this.
Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
This is the time where, I don't know how deep to get into the weeds here with this, but the public needs to look into this, this event because it could have a great environmental impact on this community. We've had other instances come up in the center region where we've had a lot of activists protecting our water, and this should be looked at by that same group at some point.
Yeah, Doug, let me ask you a question. Would this be better off to the Water Committee rather than the Safety Committee?
Well, that's a good question. I think it's really more of authority.
Well, the letter of deficiency said it had to have comments from both. That's why.
I know. I read the letter carefully, and the authority also is copied on the letter. I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna ask our borough manager for some advice on that response. I'm perfectly happy to do it, Joanne. It's not a problem.
I would recommend the Water and Sanitation Committee.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Let's do it that
We
way.
did do questions. They never got in. I mean, we sent them, but they arrived too late because their meeting was the same day we sent them. So there are comments out there. I think that Joanne and I both had them.
Yeah, we can look at those over again. And
I can forward them to you, Doug, if you want them.
Okay, thank you. The other thing is, and not, again, not to get too deep into this, but Randy, is this something that the Nittany Valley Planning should be involved in too?
It should be. I don't know, we haven't.
I didn't see them copied on the letter.
No,
Did you
I-
notice it?
I didn't, I can recheck that.
Well, I'm wondering, Randy,
I know it was discussed, but I don't think there was anything that Nittany had to approve on it because it was more between Benner and DEP and I think Bellefonte, because that's where they were bringing it, so.
we don't have an iron in the fire other than the wastewater treatment
Right.
that might be created. I think more importantly, it's the environmental effect that this would have on the community.
I
Not
agree
even
with
a
Doug.
public effect than it is a community effect, or a borough.
Thanks, Joanne. I think that's a good recommendation. We
okay,
can-
so we'll
yeah.
go to the water committee. So you have a meeting again.
Yes. Okay, next item. We have a request from Downtown Bellefonte Incorporated. They're interested in hanging a banner across High Street starting, or they'd like it up no later than November 15th. Really go through the holidays, especially hitting November 28th, which is Small Business Saturday. And that's really the emphasis of the banner, is to recognize Small Business Saturday. Also, being such a very difficult year for the downtown businesses, they would like to leave the banner up for an extended period of time, try to bring more people in.
So we need a motion to approve this banner pending additional PennDOT approval from November 15th through December 31st, unless another request comes in for a banner from another organization after that initial 2-week period.
I'll make the motion.
And
I'll
that's,
make the motion. Ann Walker.
and who seconds it?
I'll second, Brackville.
Blackville, okay. Discussion?
Is it possible if another request comes in that we could move it to a different part of town?
Yes.
There are 3 different places that such a banner can be placed. So I think the first question that I had was, which one of the 3 places did DBI want to put this banner? There are 2 of them on West High and there's 1 of them on South Allegheny.
I believe the one downtown near Talleyrand.
So the lower end of West High. Okay. And the other thing I wanted to say was that when we did the census banner last year, I noticed that there is a fee that needs to be paid. And I just want to let DBI know what that is, but I have no idea what that fee is.
Let me clarify. In probably 30 years, we've never collected a banner fee.
Okay.
So
It's listed there, but that's why that's.
I know it's actually on the application, but I think because our wording and even getting a banner, you have to be a nonprofit. And I think we just got tired of waiving the fee, so we don't collect it anymore.
Okay. Then maybe we need to change the form
We should.
and just clarify that it says it's just for nonprofit use only.
Yeah, I got you. You're right. Good to go.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Opposed? So moved.
Next item is a letter from the Bellefonte Arts and Crafts Fair of HBI. They're looking to reserve dates for the Arts and Crafts Fair next year, 2021. The dates would be August 6th and 7th. They're looking at setting up downtown or on the streets at this point in time. And they acknowledge that, the coronavirus situation may still be around, but they would like to go ahead and reserve the dates.
Okay, so I'd like a motion to tentatively approve the fair for August 6th and 7th on Allegheny and High Streets with a referral to the Streets Committee to meet sometime in the spring to finalize plans with this committee, and then bring it back to council for final approval.
I'll make the motion.
Prendergast?
I'll second it. Walker.
Okay. Discussion? Yes, Doug.
I would rather see it in the park.
Are you asking for, Doug, are you asking for that to be as part of the discussion in the spring?
Yes, we have a beautiful park, perfect setting for a festival of that sort. Instead, we put it on concrete, and it doesn't make sense to me. So that's my opinion.
So that could be put in the discussion in the spring, but it does say the dates for 6 and 7. Does
I
that seem?
think the vendors prefer it to be uptown. From what I remember of a discussion before. It's easier for them.
Go ahead, Randy.
I concur with what Melissa's saying. It's easier for the vendors and the artists to come in and load and unload their goods, and they're in and out of there very quickly. Where other things, because I've done it in the past, is be hauled down from where you can pull in. Some can pull down a little bit deeper. When you get down near the bridges and stuff, you can't get a car down in there too far. And so we've carried or hauled stuff down on a four-wheeler sometimes. So it takes longer to get them in, and it takes longer to get them out.
I
Well,
remember that discussion.
we spend a lot of money for that park, putting walkways and bridges in and landscaping it.
It's being used. It's being used and appreciated, Doug. I'll speak to this just for a second. Is that the vendors make more money, which then brings them back to town, grows the park. I mean, I loved it in the park, and I was initially opposed to it going back into town, but it works better for our downtown merchants to have people in town, and it works better for the vendors. So with that being said, which are two really target things, to have people come into our town, see our town, and also have our merchants make more money on that weekend, and our vendors come back because they're doing well. For some reason, the vendors didn't sell as much in the park. Beautiful setting. Like I said, I agree with you. I like it, but it seems that the formula in town works much better for everybody. That's all.
Doesn't hurt to discuss it.
No.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of tentative approval for the dates of August 6th and 7th, please say aye.
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 All opposed? So moved.
All right. I do have another item that came in today. It's from Sally Hauser, Victorian Christmas. And she is looking for assistance from the borough for Decoration Day. And just trying to see when exactly that day is. It's on the next page here, but she's just in general thanking the borough, first of all, for the borough support of helping with the greens and all of that. Looking here, for example, hanging the greens or getting the greens delivered from the borough building out to the light poles in the downtown area. A truck used to help Saturday morning, which is November 19th. That is the direct decoration day. Also Saturday the 21st, or I guess Saturday the 21st, help lay out the greens next to the poles, possibly do some work up around the courthouse, that type of thing, help with get the Santa house in place. Also, of course, for Victorian Christmas, they are going to block off Allegheny Street. We spent quite a bit of time, you recall, looking at street closures. They do want to close off Allegheny from Howard to Lynn, and then West Howard from Spring to Allegheny. They also would like the meters bagged on High Street. It says down to High, but possibly also continuing from on High from Water down to Potter if they have the train rides, the pumper type train rides. They have a couple of notes. There's no carriage rides. I believe that's the main note here. I'm sorry.
I thought we already approved the road closures, the Santa house, previously.
We did, and we're submitting for permits, but this all came in today. I think they're just looking for, I guess, additional support, which we generally do provide. We help with the truck and the labor that's needed.
Do we need a motion to have that done, or do we just direct you to get the staff to do that?
We're good. And then the last page is, just their COVID practices or CDC guidelines about social distancing and how they're going to set up everything. So that's there for your review also. But as everyone knows, we spent quite a bit of time already talking about it, looking at it. But all this just came in today. I just wanted to let you know.
I think we have already passed this as a motion, this to me is just an informational letter rather than something we need to move on.
Yes,
I don't think they're having the actors in either, Ralph.
Oh, yes. I did hear that. The actor crew that comes in is not going to be here this time.
No carriage rides either.
Yes. I believe that is all I have under written communications.
Okay. Anybody else have anything written? Okay, seeing none. Mayor, you're on.
All right, thank you. As you may notice, the chief is not here tonight. He called me. He's having a little bit of health problems today, so he's bowing out. He said if I needed him for anything, I could call him. But so if anybody has anything for the chief, let me know and I'll get a hold of him. I have no report for this meeting.
Okay.
Anybody has any questions or anything to add? Now's your time. All right, moving right along.
Moving on. It's my turn for a report. And I have lots of meetings I've attended in the last 2 weeks.
Did they have anything to do with the borough?
Yeah.
All right.
The first one was a couple of meetings in two different venues. One was the Spring Creek Watershed Commission Working Group, and the other one was the Susquehanna River Basin Commission meeting. The working group, and they both covered basically the same topics. The working group met on October 21st, and the Susquehanna River Basin Commission met on October 29th. The Upper Susquehanna River Basin and the Center County Commissioners are both working on separate water plans for their respective watersheds, which include the Spring Creek watershed. The engineer for the Center County program and the Center County Planning Office attended the Spring Creek Watershed Commission work group and gave us a presentation as to what's going on. And then the Spring Creek Watershed Commission representative to the Susquehanna River Basin Commission mentioned this local work at that meeting. The three groups agreed to coordinate and continue communications between the three entities on the status of what's moving in their reports or their plans as they move forward. So, which may affect us less directly than I think some of the upper watershed, which is where Center County wants to focus on. But there may be something that happens with Bellefonte. I just wanted to let you know about it. The second meeting I attended was the Drive Electric PA Coalition meeting on October 22nd. PennDOT and DEP made presentations that are in your packet. And there's a copy of the PennDOT survey related to drones, autonomous vehicles, and electric vehicles. PennDOT, during that meeting, they actually mentioned Bellefonte as one of the participants in the survey and thanked us for our participation. PennDOT will follow up individually with the communities who expressed interest in any of these three issues. Other discussions and work going on within the coalition includes planning for electrification of buses as well as medium and heavy duty vehicles, which may affect us down the road when we get into our climate adaptation plans with our light duty trucks and things like that. Talking about things, how to make them more affordable and convenient, clarifying what the benefits of these are to communities, individuals, and the environment, and thoughts on how to diversify the zero, what is it called? ZEV, zero emissions vehicle market. The final set of meetings that I went to was on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday last week, which was the Pennsylvania Municipal League representing the borough. In your packet are several handouts that I received. The first couple of handouts were from a session on fireworks, since we've been having a big discussion about that. I forwarded those to both Mayor Wilson, Randy Brackville immediately after the session in his capacity as chair of the safety committee. They include a survey on concerns raised by fire departments, testimony given to the House Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee, and from the president of the Pennsylvania Career Fire Chiefs Association on their opposition to the original fireworks expansion law and their support for repealing or amending the 2018 law on consumer fireworks. Also included in that handout are the PML legislative priorities that they're working on, plus the 14 resolutions that were unanimously passed on Friday afternoon. Other than that, I also attended a couple of sessions that I thought might be of interest. They dealt with municipal liabilities, state legislative updates, and a FEMA update and suggestions for community climate adaptation plans. There's another thing that I'm going to bring up at the Finance Committee meeting. It's a possibility of providing additional revenue to the borough from a program that is run by PML that we can discuss and possibly include in the general budget. But at this point, I really want to have that discussion with Finance Committee before we bring it out into the public. Any questions?
Just one question, Joanne. What is the upper watershed?
The Susquehanna upper Susquehanna watershed is basically Center County up to Pennsylvania, over to Delaware, and it's all the waterways that dump into the Susquehanna River and eventually into the Chesapeake Bay. There's another section with the lower Susquehanna that is held by another section of the Susquehanna River Basin Commission. So they basically split the Susquehanna River Basin into two sections. Center County is in the upper section, and they're creating plans for each section of the state.
Okay, when you said about the commissioners, I was just wondering what area that they were looking at as far as within the
Center
county.
County commissioners are working on are all the watersheds within Center County. And the focus that they're thinking of doing is doing a Slab Cabin Creek project in conjunction with the Spring Creek Watershed Commission. That's why I said that it didn't think it would directly impact us, but there might be something else down the road once they finish their plan.
Okay. Okie dokie.
Any other questions? Okay, that ends my report.
Building a property, and
I don't have anything, do I, Don?
Not that I'm aware of tonight, Ann.
Okay.
okay. Any questions for Ann? Seeing none, move on to Gina and the finance and government performance.
Hey. So we had a meeting on October 27th. We just went through some budget items. We've been talking about the budget. We looked at some assessment, had a discussion about assessment and improvements. And then there's no, I don't believe, maybe Rob can jump in if I'm incorrect, but I don't believe there's any action items from our committee meeting.
I don't recall any.
Okay. Then let me look. So I've got a lot of tabs open here. We had a special work session held on October 26th. That was last Monday, to review the borough strategic management plan and the recommendations from the consultant. Those are in your packet. We met with the consulting team and went through that plan. And again, so far, those are just recommendations, and we had a good discussion about them. And I don't believe there are any action items from that right now, correct?
They're supposed to be coming back after the 19th to give us some additional things
Right.
based on our comments.
Yeah, Rand.
Yeah, I had suggested that we as council get together and review what some of these recommendations are before that meeting. So that maybe that meeting becomes a little bit more involved in what we think we can do for the next year. Maybe set it up for something like that. I think there were some easy things that we can get done. Some of them may have already been started, but I think we need to review it.
I had the impression, and I wasn't aware of this, but I had the impression at the meeting last week that Delta was going to guide us through those steps, Randy. I wasn't aware of it when the proposal was written, but when they said it, I kind of thought to myself, that was something I wasn't expecting, but that's what I got out of it. I thought that they were going to help us, get to the next steps after we get to this completed.
Yeah. I thought what they said, and I think I'm agreeing with Don here, was that they were going to set up a timeline for implementation of the recommendations after they edited the document to reflect what we told them was right and what was wrong in the original document.
Yeah, but as far as what their recommendations were, I don't think there were that many things wrong. It's just how do we want to address them? I don't know if they can guide us on that. I think we know Bellefonte better than they do. But that's up to council.
I kind of agree with you, Randy. I'm not sure exactly. And most of the recommendations that I recall were relatively easy to do. I'm not sure how much. It never hurts to talk about them, but I'm not sure how much we get accomplished.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gina.
Okay. I also, tend to agree, Randy. I mean, I think that it's worth it. It definitely warrants more discussion from council. There were recommendations that were potentially very costly, and then there were some that were not. So, I mean, we can't just that would be something we need to discuss. I guess I'm just not sure when that discussion should happen. That's all.
Well, if it's going to be something in 21, this should be discussed before we get to the budget or whatever account it might.
So,
True.
I have a related question then. What they told us was that they were going to send us a revised report with the corrections to the draft. Randy, are you asking for us to have this conversation before or after we receive that revision?
It depends. When were they sending that? Wasn't that going to be pretty close to the 12th?
About the 15th, about the middle of the month.
Yeah, so I mean, that's almost the same time we're having the meeting with them.
I guess I'm also a little confused about the expectation to implement some of the recommendations in 2021. So I'm trying to piece together a timeline in my mind if which recommendations we want to implement, and then considering the budget in regards to that. I just don't have a clear timeline for these recommendations, so.
I guess that would be something to discuss.
I guess.
Well, Don, got any suggestions?
Well, it does sound like, you need to get together, but the timetable is tight. You'd have to have something next week, and there's a holiday in the middle of the week. That's about the only possibility. We could try to set it up and see if availability works out. And then, of course, we'd have to advertise it. So I know Monday night, typically the Planning Commission meets, and we're going to move the authority meeting to Tuesday night because of election night tomorrow night. We're going to bump the authority meeting to next Tuesday, the 10th. So the 11th is a holiday. So you're looking at the 12th in the evening would be about the only opening that I can think of right now.
And that's a Thursday.
Yes.
I have to work that night.
I mean, we could hear what the consultant has, work our way through it, and then, set up a follow-up meeting afterwards.
But to follow up on Randy's is that we are getting close to when we have to do all the budget stuff and have it finalized.
Yeah.
So I guess what my question is do we have to implement some of these recommendations in 2021? Could we, upon a discussion, look at some of the recommendations and say, this, and this can be implemented without extra cost, but this, and this recommendation needs to be budgeted, so it's something we would work on in 2021 for the 2022 budget.
Makes sense.
I think you're going to have to do that.
Okay.
We just had Lori come in with another round of funds. She's trying to bring everything across the finish line in early December. So there's just not a lot of time to go back and rework things in the budget.
Right.
I agree with Gina's assessment.
So if we were to hold a work session, what I'm hearing, tell me if I'm misinterpreting, is that we would hold the work session after we get their report and after we have that round of first general budget discussion with Lori. And then we could look and say, okay, these things we can do without changing the budget, and then these we'll put off until 2022. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So we don't have to have something next week.
No.
No,
Right.
but we have,
So there's still getting back to Randy's original point, I agree. I think that council needs to discuss these recommendations, but I don't think there's the same urgency to cram it into the, getting it in before the general budget work session or anything like that. So.
I guess my main point is one of the recommendations is that to create a 10-year plan. Well, the 10-year plan lays in front of us right now, and that's what we need to look at these recommendations about.
Yeah, I think that it's important that we have this discussion soon, like in December or very early 2021, so that we can figure out what does need to be budgeted and to look at a long-term plan for the borough. So.
Any other comments on this?
I'm still
Continue
on.
on, Gina.
Yeah, I forgot. I'm still on here. Okay, so okay, then we're down to most of the usual stuff. So in your packet, we have the October 2020 budget versus actual. Hopefully you've had a chance to review that. Are there any questions on that that you would like me to get from Lori? Okay. We have the Stover McLaughlin invoice. I believe we will need a motion. I would like to make a motion to approve the invoice, or do we need to do that?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm making a motion to approve the Stover McLaughlin invoice.
I'll second it.
Okay, that's for $390.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, and then, oh, sorry. So finally, there's just the, which we talked about in the work session. We looked at the special projects budget, the water budget, the sewer budget, and the refuse budget. So that is all I have for finance. We'll have another meeting tomorrow. We're having weekly meetings.
I thought we had postponed that because there's several
Oh,
in the
right.
election tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow's a big day. Sorry, I forgot about that. Did we? Yes. So we'll have to
This is for next week.
confer via email when we're meeting next. So
Well, the poll's open at 7. We could maybe meet at 6 a.m. You know. So
I have to be there at 6 a.m.
So do I.
oh, well, then let's make it 5:30, Gina.
How about 5?
Oh, well, we'll see.
Okay.
All right, that's all I have. Thanks.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Melissa, Parks and Rec.
I would like to make a motion to approve invoice number 5 for the CDBG walkway project in the amount of $42,682.
I'll second that. Eaton?
Kowalski and Eaton. Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
I have a
Yeah.
discussion.
You gotta talk faster, Don.
Well, I see the second one says, move money. How can we pay the invoice if we don't have the money in the account? The 16.5 that we're transferring. Maybe we should do that first and then approve paying the bill. No, I'm fine with it. Let's go. I vote aye.
Seeing no other discussion, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay. Melissa?
This one's for Doug. Consider approval to move CDBG funds in the amount of $16,655.14 from the 2019 administration to the 2019 Talleyrand Park Bridge.
Kowalski
I'll
and,
second that motion.
It was for you, Doug. Thank you.
and by the way, this isn't the same project. This one is, the Talleyrand Park Bridge is for the suspension bridge. That
Okay.
It's not for the pedestrian bridge that we just passed the motion on.
Now, I want to clarify, just so it doesn't get screwed up in the minutes. This is for the pedestrian bridge, but the invoice that Melissa made a motion to approve was out of the 18 CDBG funds. And
Okay.
all I'm doing with this 19 money is just moving the admin money over now so that I don't have to take as much out of bulk water that you approved earlier.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Don.
Thanks, Don, for clarifying that. Seriously, thank you.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? So moved.
And this third one, I have no information on. So Don,
There was some people on our bridge pier that, that they're working on. It's actually taped off. No one is supposed to be on it, but we got an email. There were I guess some kids on there taking the bolts off and throwing them in the water. We can't pick anything up. You know that we have security cameras, but in that part, we couldn't catch them. So all we're trying to tell people that want to report these things, if there's in efforts to reduce vandalism in the parks in our town, if you see something, everybody's got a phone, snap a picture and send it to us. We'll make sure it gets in the police department's hands.
Good idea.
Is there any way, do we have like a phone number people could just text pictures to?
Don't they have the police line?
Tom, do you know I have the answer to that? You're muted. You're muted, Tom.
You're muted.
You're still muted.
I'm working on it.
There.
There you go.
Now you're okay.
I do not have a texting phone number, but I can ask Sean if we have something and send it to y'all. I mean, we just have the regular call-in number, the office number, but I don't know if we have anything we can text to.
I think it would be cool if we had a
Well,
sign
works.
around the borough that said, hey, see something, text this number.
Yeah, I agree
Because
with you.
no one's going to remember the borough email address.
I think that's a good suggestion, Melissa. I know there are no fans in Beaver Stadium right now, but all around the stadium, if people see something, there is a number that they can text to alert security. I think that's a great idea.
See something, say something is really helpful.
I have nothing further in my report.
Anything else? Questions for Melissa?
I would only add to her comment that if it's something that is totally out of line, 911 would be your best call at that point. If it's something you're watching at that real time, that's the number I would call.
I think removing bolts from a bridge is a pretty big deal for safety. So in this regard, 911 is a good choice.
Joanne, is that something you'd like the safety committee to look into? Maybe see if we could create that sort of thing?
That text message, that might be a good idea. Randy, thoughts? Okay.
Talk about it.
Us.
Thank you.
Well, I'll check first to make sure we don't already have some sort of mechanism, but I don't think we do.
Okay, got it. Anything else? Okay, moving on to human resources. John.
Okay, I'm gonna let Ralph handle the wastewater treatment plant vacancy.
Sure. Mr. Cook, our wastewater treatment plant superintendent, is retiring at the end of the year. And of course, we're advertising for his replacement. The applications, as noted here, are due November 6th, I believe it is. And, the qualifications are on our website. If you have any questions, you can give me a call. Happy to talk to you about it. You get an application, get it filled out, get it returned here pretty soon is a deadline. So once the deadline closes, we'll review whatever comes in and set up interviews and try to get someone on board as soon as we can. Thank you.
Okay. And then the final item is we need to schedule a council meeting, HR Human Resources Committee meeting to discuss opening a position for planning, seeking a position to head up planning, zoning, HARB as the administrator / assistant to the borough manager. that will be contracting out planning and zoning and taking steps to fill that position in 2021. My goal, my suggestion is that we do this after the 15th, and hopefully before Thanksgiving. It's getting a little tight with budget season and everything, but we'll put it on the calendar.
Okay, so ask Melissa to send out a doodle?
Yes, send out to Doodle, get it going, because we're also backed up. We have some other HR issues that we need to resolve too, but as far as yes, various other HR issues. So that's all I have.
Questions for John?
When is the borough hoping to hire that position?
I have just put in a note, we'd like to get someone in, January, early January is our goal.
Okay, I was just thinking that.
I thought you maybe want him a little bit earlier to have a cross training with.
Yeah.
Well, if you want them even earlier, I mean, I'm thinking about how job positions are advertised and for how long to get a good candidate pool and that sort of thing. So
where we are today, a reasonable time frame is it's not going to be before January, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If we can get someone on board in January, that would be great.
Yeah, I don't see how you're going to do that with budget season and the holidays upon us, and also we're going to have the elected officers involved with the senior management reviews after the 15th. So it's going to be a pretty full plate for the next 2 months.
those are due next week, aren't they? Or 2 weeks?
Yes,
huh?
they are.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks for the
All
subtle
account-
reminder, John.
Thank you for the segue.
No problem.
To jump into that, I think I've asked this before, but when we do those evaluations, who do they go to, Joanne or?
They go to Joanne, and they need to go to Joanne before before our next meeting.
I don't have 10 extra days to get it done.
And then Doug, you, Randy.
That'll give you something to do, Joanne, while you're at the election poll instead of counting. You can fill that out. Now, yes, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
That's okay.
So Randy's already asking for extra time, but that doesn't go to me, Randy. That's a request to Joanne. I'm
halfway there right now.
You're a better man than I am.
Okay. Anything else, John?
No, I don't.
Any questions for John? Okay, moving on to safety, Randy.
The only thing I have on my agenda for safety is the after action review of natural gas leak incidents. That's scheduled for 1:30 p.m. on November 12th. That'll be a virtual meeting.
And could you tell the public and us who's actually been invited?
I'll ask Ralph to do that because I don't have that info.
Well, we invite the stakeholders depending on the incident, but in this case, it was a natural gas line break. So the gas company for sure. And of course, the way we're set up in local government, we work hand in hand with the fire company personnel, the county emergency management agency. Dawn is our local borough emergency management coordinator. EMS, Emergency Medical Services, was on site. The fire police were on site, just to name a few. We had, in this case, we had some Spring Township police officers there, probation, parole, because we're the county seat. They happen to be in the area. We had some sheriff officers there that again happened to be there. I hope I'm not missing anybody, but I tried to, based on the information I received from Chief Weaver, invite representatives from each of these entities. And I'm optimistic most can have a representative present.
Okay, thank you.
Sure,
Thanks, Don, or Ralph.
no problem.
Anything else for safety? Seeing none. Water sanitation, Doug.
Okay. Well, as Ralph stated, because of Election Day tomorrow and all of our busy schedules, we decided to move the Tuesday night meeting for November 3rd to November 10th. It's a week's delay. It's at 6 p.m. and it will be done virtually. A reminder, brush and grass collection for the season will end on Wednesday, November 18th. And the last thing is the ML Musler Lane RC. MLRC will be ending its Saturday hours as of November 21st. However, I think they can still come in and get the key, can't they, Ralph, after that date for depositing brush and grass? Is that still, and are we leaving it open? Are we changing any policy?
Hey, Ralph, before you answer that, I was going to ask Doug, we have a committee meeting to talk about Shiloh Road Sewer. I think we also need to talk about the new gate protocol as well as what we're going to do after the 21st, because as you talked about, Ralph, people really don't come in. We don't want people coming in and grabbing keys now. So under the COVID-19 issues. So that's something I think we want to talk about in a committee, Doug, before we try to answer it tonight.
I agree.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Thank you, Dawn. So, Ralph, I would ask that you could, or Alyssa could send out a doodle calendar to a committee member so we can get a meeting organized.
Sure.
Schedule, please.
Sure, no problem.
That's my report. That's my report, Madam President.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Ralph.
Next week, I mentioned a little while ago, Wednesday is a holiday, the Veterans Day. So November 11th, there will not be brush, grass pickup, which I'm sorry, I neglected to put that on the agenda. So Doug is correct. It ends the following week. The 18th is the last pickup, but Wednesday, the 11th, or that week, there is no pickup.
Okay.
Thank you, Ralph.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Seeing none, Deb Clayton is not here this evening. I've asked Randy to give the Streets Committee report.
Okay, what's on the agenda? I'm just going to go with what's on here. Consider approval for the parking ordinance amendment final draft 110-22020-01 and related updates to borough fee schedule. So I will make a motion that we approve that final draft.
I'll second it.
Blackburn,
Walker.
any amendments? I know of one, but I can't make the motion, so I'll tell you what it is and someone else can make the motion. We need to add an amendment to add Fridays to the days of coverage in sections 530-53, days and hours of parking meter operation.
Well, that was already done, Joanne.
Yeah.
I think it's in there.
That was based on the comment from Randy at the last meeting.
Oh, so it's already been done? Okay.
I think it was
I
Doug.
looked at it. I looked at the one that was sent in the packet and it didn't have it in there, which is why I said that.
True. I agree. It was not on the one that we had for this meeting.
No, it's changed though.
Okay.
I saw it.
Okay.
The other question I had, go ahead. Or you have another question, Joanne?
But that was it.
So on Saturdays, we stop charging at noontime?
Yes.
Okay. I'm still getting comments about the 8 PM. But I know it's done deal. So why don't we extend the hours on Saturday to like 3 PM?
We just, when it was decided at the time, Doug, the hours that we put in is what council kind of agreed to. So that's what we went with. We never changed Saturdays.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
I would just, while we're
Go ahead,
talking
Bob.
about, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I was just checking here. The permits that are now going to be available for on-street parking in the, what is currently the red meter area. Just so everyone listening knows what the permitted fees will be in the, the fee schedule. What's in the proposal is a $20 a month parking permit fee for residences. Any residence that wants one, that's what the fee would be on a monthly basis. And for the commuter, they would pay $35 a month. Again, this is a new permit process on street where the red meters currently are. We're going to switch the red meters out and go with a new on-street permitting section of our parking area that we enforce. So I know, of course, we'll have new signage explaining it. But I just wanted to let everyone know that the fee schedule will be changed accordingly based on those numbers.
And Ralph, just to clarify, one more thing is the date. That takes effect in January, but I forget the date that we mentioned.
We would like the ordinance to be effective immediately, Randy.
Oh, okay, then that changed, okay.
Yeah, but we do want to add that we probably, as Ralph was just talking about, the on-street permit parking, we probably won't have that completed. That is all the red meters pulled and the signage put up until probably January. And once we do that, we'll probably be lenient for the first month or two with all residents and commuters until we can get it up to speed.
Okay.
So what we're telling the public is this will go into effect immediately except for the permits, and that will be January 1st.
We'll say January, but we'll try to get it. I mean, it depends on how much we can get, how much Public Works can get it taken care of. So it'll be really weather dependent, I think, Joanne.
Okay, so they'll continue paying the meters until the meters disappear, and then they start paying permits.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
And there'll be a grace period, so we'll work with people.
Any other discussion?
I have a quick question. The clause about the electric vehicles, when electric vehicles are in their spots charging, are they paying a meter fee as well?
They're to pay the meter.
Okay.
Yes.
They're paying a meter fee just like anybody else.
Okay.
There's no fee for the electricity, but just for the parking space.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other thing was that if they have a car they can't plug in, head in, they can park back in.
Okay.
So like the larger size cars with the plug in the rear of the car, that cord just doesn't quite go far enough.
Right. Okay. Okay, thanks. I just wanted to make sure I was reading that right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Seeing no other discussion, we ready for a vote? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Okay, the next item is that the committee worked on review of the parking, the ordinance for parking large vehicles, RVs, trailers, etc. So we're looking for a formal approval of this for this ordinance. So I will go ahead and make that motion to advertise the ordinance for parking of large vehicles, RVs, and trailers.
I'll second the motion. Johnson?
Brightfield and Johnson. Discussion?
I
I think
have,
we ought to give a little bit of a, go ahead, Doug.
When I look at the temporary parking permit terms and conditions, I think we had some discussion, and I don't recall if we are going to do it. Will the applicant be able to go online and secure that permit? So they could enter all the information and print the permit out at wherever they want to print it?
My goal is yes. I don't know what it's going to take to get there, but I would like to have all of our, even our in-lot permits, to be accessible online. So we're going to look into that to answer your question, but my goal is to get to that point.
Okay, so, and I'm sorry I didn't bring this up in committee. So, if somebody comes to town on a Saturday night late and is staying overnight until Sunday mid-afternoon and cannot access a permit, are we going to forgive that, or are we?
Yeah, I mean, we could exonerate the ticket. There's a process.
Okay.
And if it's something just like you're describing, we could, the mayor could exonerate it.
Okay. Until hopefully we get something that could be done online and printed and displayed.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Ralph.
Sure.
So back to the motion at hand, is to motion to advertise the large vehicle RVs and trailers. Any discussion? I think for the public's view, Doug or Randy, do you want to kind of tell where this came from?
Well, I thought Doug, I thought he had that coming.
That's what I thought he was going to do too.
We've gotten several complaints about.
Randy, I'll fill in what you don't. I'll fill in.
We've gotten complaints about trailers and things being parked out on the streets and in the residential areas, and it's causing issues for their parking. There are guidelines that are in the current ordinance, but we need to tighten them up a little bit because requests that we made to have where the issues were happening, to have it corrected, nothing was happening. And so I think we felt that we needed to look at the entire ordinance again. And that's basically what we did to try to tighten this down so that we get things that are being stored off the street and properly stored either at their location if they have the space or on an off-site location.
Now, I have a question. Would people have to submit a complaint, or is this something that would be if the police drive by and see a trailer on the side of the road that's been there for a while, they take care of it, or they issue a citation, or?
Be done either way.
Yeah, it could be done either way, but it's meant to be, if you don't have a permit, you can't be on the street. I would just add to what Randy said. This came out of, there's quite a few trailers, boats, RVs being stored on the public streets in our town. And it does create a safety hazard, getting around it, driving around it. And not only that, but in the front yard. So I want to clarify, the ordinance will prohibit this unless you have a permit, the same way we've done for years with roll-off dumpsters and that type of thing. You have to have a permit to have a roll-off dumpster in front of your house if you're doing construction, and we monitor how long that dumpster is there. This would apply to, construction trailers, dumpsters, you name it, that are parked on the public streets, and also the front yards. So we think overall it'll be safer to drive through our older streets, narrow streets, and not have to try to look around these large vehicles that are blocking visibility. So it came out of a couple recent complaints, but it has a general adaptability or viability throughout the borough.
Pretty good. That's what I need to know.
It was time for us to revisit this ordinance.
I agree. I'm just wondering about how it's going to be enforced.
We're not trying to deter contractors from bringing their construction trailers in and using it on site. There's a permit process. So you know, there's always bugs to be worked out, but like Mr. Stewart said, we will work with each person to resolve them.
Not a problem.
Any other discussions or questions?
Doug, along those lines, the one question I had was, when we get into the section on off-street parking, what are the setbacks that would be applied to something being parked in the back corner of your yard? Is that a 10-foot setback, or?
I think it's 20. Isn't it, Ralph? 20?
No, let me try answering this. If you're talking about the backyard, which is really, you can only put, I'll just use a camper as an example. It cannot be in the front yard. So you're looking at the side yard, which starts at the front corner of the house and goes back towards the back of the house. And when you're in that area, you have to be a minimum of 5 feet from the property line on the side yard or the rear yard property line, the same as a utility shed, you know, or something small like that, as the same setbacks as that type of building. So you're looking at 5 feet minimum.
Okay. And then the other thing I noted was you also, if you specifically want to avoid the situation where people are living in the RV.
Yes. That's in that, you know, that was out of several other ordinances that we looked at. And the committee's recommending that stays in the ordinance, but it's up to council. You know, the committee did adopt it, recommend it to you that way.
Okay. No, I'm just saying, I'm just asking for clarification. So.
In some areas of town, you really don't have 5 feet between buildings, let alone property lines.
You're gonna have to find a different location to.
Oh, I don't have one.
Yeah. Well, the folks that do are gonna have to maybe look at a commercial storage facility, you know, that are all around us, or a friend's yard or whatever, but it's gonna be a learning curve and some difficulty till people get familiar with, you know, how the regulations work.
Okay. Okay.
So putting a bug in there, what about maybe it's not the right time to ask it, but the unordained streets? Did we address that in there? I can't remember.
Yes, I did. It had the word unordained right-of-way street is in the ordinance, a draft. But let me just clarify, Mr. Johnson, we have always tried to be the referee on those areas, even though we don't own it, and then the properties that adjoin it do not own it. But we have tried to keep those open for public thoroughfare, just like the petition was asking. So that our view hasn't really changed on that.
So that I think is already in the current ordinance that we have. That would not be a change, correct?
Well, it's at least in the draft that you have and you're looking at right now. It has enough verbiage in there to cover the unopened or unordained right-of-ways.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of advertising this proposed ordinance, please say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. We'll be on the next agenda.
Thank you.
We got 2 more items, one on the agenda, one not on the agenda. But it kind of goes, they probably all go together. On this Thursday, we have a meeting we had a meeting last Thursday on Zion Road in Route 550, South SR 550. The stormwater runoff, there was an issue down in Parkview Lane. We had an on-site meeting there with state officials that we held on Tuesday. I'm sorry, it was Tuesday, October 27th. So there's more investigating to be done, but I thought I thought the residents presented their case very well. I think PennDOT was accepting what they were being told, but they needed to go back and check their numbers from what I understood some of the conversation being. And we did take some pictures of the area after we had that all day rain Thursday. It wasn't heavy rains, but it was a steady rain. And it shows some water going across the road. It shows water being held back, back where the retention area is, which is that's what it's supposed to do. But then that's eventually supposed to either drain off or drain through into the ground. And one of the issues is that that's not happening back there. So I did not get back to get any more pictures, but I might go back out there tomorrow and take a look and see what else is there, see if it looks the same. That might help as well. So that's ongoing. The other things we're looking at, we've had issues with crossings downtown, street crossings. Down to Gamble Mill, they did complete the piano keys marking at that crosswalk that comes across from the parking area. We're also looking at Monroe and Lynn streets as well as the downtown crosswalk. So whether Monroe and Lynn and the downtown areas get finished, weather is gonna either help or hinder us at this point to get those areas done this year. There's hopes to get Monroe and Lynn crossings in next week or this week with the warmer weather coming here at the end of the week. But then it depends what other projects might pop up for streets crew. So they're on the list. It's just an iffy thing whether they get done this year or first thing in the spring in 21. And that's all I have for streets.
Okay, I'd like to follow up on what Randy just said. At the PML meeting last week, and one of the workshops I went to was on municipal liability. And one of the things they talked about was crosswalks. And the lawyer that did the presentation said that if we have faded crosswalks, we should probably be painting them sooner rather than later, because several communities have been sued and found liable for not having kept those crosswalk crossings clear, well painted. So
Yeah,
just an FYI.
I think as far as what's there now, that was repainted. They've all been repainted this year. It was just later in the year. But now we're going to the piano keys.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking about the ones down in the downtown area that are somewhat faded.
Okay, well but I'm pretty sure they were all painted this year.
So just a kind of a heads up sort of thing.
Good.
Anything else for streets? Okay, energy and environment, Mike?
Yeah, apparently we got some additional information from Wilson Engineering on the climate action plan. Can you fill in a little bit on that, Joanne or Don?
Yeah, we had a meeting here the other week with Wilson Engineering. They requested a number of bullets of information. Everything's been provided to them except with the exception I'm still gathering the information on the facility, square footage, and a number of other things, but probably today or tomorrow or Wednesday, I'll provide that to them, and then they'll have everything they need to get started on the work that they're doing for us.
Okay, and we sent a copy to the strategic management plan consultant. Was that part of what you sent?
I think Joanne sent the climate action study to the Delta Development, the STAMP folks. They were asking for that.
With the additional information or that you were sending?
No, this is
They're two different things.
two different
Okay.
entities. I did want to add one other thing is the Penn State sustainability students sent us an email today. Right now they're trying to establish, they would like to meet with the committee one more time Right now, they tentatively have Thursday and Friday, November 12th and 13th. Thursday from 3:30 to 5:30, the 13th from 12 to 1. As soon as I nail down a time, I'll send it out to the committee. And those of you that can make it, that would be appreciated. If you can't, it's understood, but we got to work within their time frame. So we'll just do the best we can. If you can make it, that'll be great. I'll get it out to you as soon as I have it confirmed.
Okay. And
Hopefully
I
it's
have,
Thursday.
Pardon me, Mike?
I say, hopefully it's the Thursday.
Yeah, that works best for me. Dawn, I did speak with Jamie. They have not been able to set up the meeting yet with PennDOT because I wanted to have her include them as one of the stakeholders in whatever we do, being that they own one side of that stream, more or less.
Right.
So she said they're working on that. But what they showed us so far, I thought looked really nice.
Okay.
So.
and I had one additional thing. And Don contacted DEP to have ICLEI assist us with crafting a climate adaptation advisory board. That was what I was told from PML to be calling it rather than climate change. It's more of an adaptation than making the climate change. So can you tell us what happened with that so far, Don?
Yeah, I nothing other than the email we got thus far. I'll have to call the folks from ICLEI and see what support we can get and how that's all going to work, Joanne. So hopefully by the next meeting, I can have more information on that.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have.
Any other questions for Mike? Okay, that's all the committee reports, and we'll move on to Office of Community Affairs. Ralph?
Sure, there's a couple of notes here. The next Planning Commission meeting is November 9th. We have two potential volunteer applications for the Planning Commission vacancy for your consideration. The names, if you want me to give you the names, or the applicants are in your packet. Or I think they were sent out today, I believe.
Yeah, they were sent out. So we need a motion for somebody to appoint one of these two individuals for an interim term on the Planning Commission to start immediately, ending on December 31st, 2021.
I'll make a motion to appoint Dave Lomison to the Planning Committee, Bellefonte Planning Committee.
Johnson, who will second that?
I'll second Rockville.
Discussion?
I think Dave offers some continuity between the county and the borough. He works for the county. He's pretty knowledgeable. He went through a process of getting variances for building some buildings on his property. He's very dedicated to the community, and he plans to live here for the remainder of his time. So I think it would work well with the other committee members that I know. So that's why I would recommend David.
Who's the other one?
Susan Hoover. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Dave Lomason's appointment, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? So moved. Can you let Dave know? Thank you.
All right, we're into the Historical Architectural Review Board Certificates of Appropriateness. There's a number of them. I'll just read down through the addresses in the project. First one's 131 West High Street. It's a change to paint color. The second one is 118 North Allegheny Street. It's signage and a touch-up of existing paint colors. 135 West High Street, it's new signage. 445 East Curtin Street is the installation of fencing. And 420 East Lynn Street is roofing and siding materials. again, the Harb's recommending approval on all of these.
So I need a motion to issue certificates of approval to all the following, noting that the 131 West High Street is actually a retroactive certificate of appropriateness. All the others.
I'll make that motion, Madam President.
I'll second it, Prendergast.
Johnson, Prendergast, okay. Johnson and Prendergast. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All opposed? So moved.
Next item is just a note that we did have a meeting with our nuisance code enforcement officer, and we have it established that we will start receiving written reports at the next council meeting, or usually the second meeting of the month. And lastly, we just had some conversations about possibly getting a report from the animal control officer. Also, the same person does our meter enforcement. But something we're going to look into. I was suggesting maybe this should be included in the police report since the person works out of their office, but it's for council to consider.
A motion to consider monthly reports on animal control.
I'll make the motion.
Prendergast,
I'll second. Thompson.
Prendergast and Thompson. I'll tell you where this came from. This was some of the discussion that I'd had with Ralph. We've had several incidents of animal control in the last month. And I know over the past couple of years, we've had feral cat issues and we've had complaints and we've had some skunk issues and all that. And I think for the public's knowledge, it would be helpful for them to know what we're doing about all of these different kinds of animal issues here in the borough. And by doing a monthly report, sometimes there may be none at all, and other times there may be several, but I think that that would be particularly helpful for the public to know what's going on.
Well, my only comment would be, since it's a animal control and parking enforcement officer, why don't we have them have the two officers combine the parking enforcement with the animal control report?
No, I think they already do the parking enforcement. It's part of, don't they? Would be part of the mayor's report for exonerations.
No. Well, I mean, they issue tickets, but I'm not sure exactly your question. You want a written report on the meters, John?
Yeah, just if they could include if there's anything happening with the meters, anything like if they've had to hand out tickets or citations, just give us a rundown of saying, okay, we issued this many tickets on their monthly report.
All right, well, we can try to get that. I know we're very pleased with the reports that we're getting on meter usage that, is really generated almost automatically, but let me see about tickets issued and those kinds of things.
So,
Well,
John,
I mean, if that was something, sorry, Joanne.
I was going to say, did you want to
But if
amend the
that was-
motion?
Yeah, I'll amend a motion to include, the meter income that Ralph says is being reported readily or fairly easily. So,
Okay, do we have a second to John's amendment?
I will second it, Johnson.
Okay. Do we have a discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, seeing none,
Tom?
Oh, Gina's trying to hold herself back.
you want to say something?
I think I just think it's unnecessary. I feel like you're complicating things, John, but,
well,
Give us,
so you want the meter employees to make a note of every time they issue a warning and a ticket on a car? I'm just like, maybe I'm confused or.
I don't think it's going to be that hard to do. I think there's,
Okay.
I agree with you, but I think when Kathy can do a compilation each month of how many tickets were issued, that
Okay.
shouldn't be hard to do. There's a record of each one that comes in. So it'll just be a matter of just putting another line on the police report. I don't really think the meter readers will be doing that. That'll be Kathy when she gets the tickets in.
And she
they'll
doesn't
be
have anything
issuing
else
the
to do.
tickets, won't they?
Right.
Pardon?
They'll be issuing the tickets, won't they?
Or Karen, I'm sorry, not Kathy. Karen.
We don't have
They'll
a
be
text
issuing
anymore.
the tickets, correct?
Say that again, John?
They'll be issuing the tickets, correct?
They'll be issuing the tickets, but they also then turn that in to Karen, and then she compilates that.
Right. I mean,
So
it's
shouldn't
about
be-
$140,000 worth of revenue for the borough. So it's not an inconsequential revenue stream.
Yeah,
that-
but that comes in whether you know it or not. So that what you're asking is really
It's like it's redundant,
somewhat
isn't it?
moot, but it's not a big deal. We'll do it
Okay.
if John wants it.
Superfluous, I think,
Well,
is
then
the
if
correct word.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes, Randy.
Now,
Go ahead.
the income off the meters is shown in the budget on a monthly basis, isn't it? I mean, if people want to see it, there's a place to go see it. I don't think we need to see that on the police report.
No, I think he's talking about the tickets.
But once
not
they
so
give the
much
tickets
income.
out, then they don't know what happens to the tickets. Yeah, they handed them out, but they might not have all been fine. They might, the mayor may forgive them.
Right, that's the exoneration report.
Yeah, I mean, that shows
Yeah.
there. I mean, if we're just trying to justify their time out there, they're out on the street and whether they're putting out tickets or not. I'm sure
Yeah,
they're doing
I
it.
just think it's a little, it's
all right.
something else they have to do.
I just, yeah, I don't know.
Do we
I mean,
need to have parking enforcement officers then?
that's,
We could have them have maybe a step counter as well.
Guys, we were doing real good tonight and we're getting out at a good time so we can vote early tomorrow. So let's just
Thank you.
Some of us
Melissa.
already voted.
power through.
Yeah, but some of us have to work it.
Oh, John, do you want to withdraw your motion, John? Do you want us to
No,
call?
let's just go ahead and get this done. All in favor of John's amendment, say aye.
Aye. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm screwing us up.
Come on, you're holding us up.
What do I have to say for us to get out of here before I need to go to bed?
Well, I mean, I don't understand why we have a parking enforcement officer if we don't know really what they do. Apparently, handing out tickets isn't all that important.
really, I really don't want to get in the business of micromanaging our employee. I
call the
just
question.
vote.
Madam President, I call the question.
We have called the question. We're in the middle of the vote. No more discussion. All in favor of John's amendment, say aye. All opposed, say aye.
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 So, John, are you in the, yay?
I'm going to say I'm an A or I. Yeah,
So one aye
I'll
and the
support
rest are
my
nay.
opinion.
Okay, it fails. So
Yeah,
we
I
just
got
have the main motion now. And moving, is there any discussion on the main motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the main motion, say aye.
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 All opposed? So moved.
Aye.
Thanks. Okay. Moving on to special committee reports. I think this should go over either Ralph or Melissa.
I'm going to defer to Melissa.
I am, as you know, I'm on the Center County Library Historical Board. We spent a good bit of the past year working through this whistleblower policy. I'd like to suggest the HR committee take it on to see if it's something that we want to handle or we want to apply to our policy book.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, okay.
So I'd like to refer this to the HR committee for the next meeting for review and suggestions. And also while we're at it, this is something I found this afternoon, I think we should review the nepotism statement on the ABC volunteer applications for completeness.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know, I didn't, when the whistleblower thing came up, I didn't realize you were proposing that for us to include as an HR policy.
I thought about it after we had our meeting, the STMP meeting last week. They are looking for a lot of policy updates across departments, and I just thought this might be a good fit for us.
Yeah, it makes sense. I was just baffled when the library and whistleblower came up, but no, it's a good idea.
Any other special committee reports? Okay, seeing none, old business?
I just mentioned here real quick that we did receive a letter from our solicitor in regard to the mask ordinance. There is one comment that really was about clarification of the mask definition, and could be the draft could easily be cleaned up to take out the sentence to make it clearer as to what the definition is.
So what we would need is a motion to advertise with a discussion on how to hold a hybrid meeting, and the advertised version of the redraft shall eliminate the second sentence in section 2C as suggested by the solicitor.
We need a motion for that, and I'll make it.
Prendergast.
I'll second it, Hawker.
Prendergast and Walker. Okay, discussion?
I think we should just at least let the public know, again, a little clearer what was taken out. And it was basically talking about the face shields. As the face shields was described in the, I believe the legislative history, or else there's some definitions that describe the face masks. And in the area that they had us change, also spoke to face masks, and then we had separated face shields into a separate sentence, and we deleted that so that it was part of the face mask description or definition.
So, and if you look at that, when we eliminate that one sentence, there is a note from the OSHA down at the bottom talking about face shields. It's not a part of the ordinance, but it clarifies the issue about face shield down below, so people understand what we're talking about there. In terms of when our construction person needs to use a face shield instead of a mask.
And again, from the work we did with this, it is basically supporting CDC guidelines. We took most of the residential criteria out, and it's basically downtown and businesses and venues that are going on and doing proper distancing, wearing the mask, keeping yourself safe. You have to look out for yourself sometimes. So, and in this case, this is one of those times. So I think we narrowed things down pretty well from what we started with.
And it removes the shall mandate that was in the original, saying that businesses had to enforce the masking. So a lot of these suggestions came from one of the public commenters back when we came around the first time. So we took that and what we had with the governor's reopening guidelines, and we did this to help improve it to meet the concerns of the community as well as the concerns for safety of people going forward. Once we pass this motion, then we'll have a discussion on how we're going to hold the meeting. Okay.
That's going to be important to get that public meeting going, and once this is advertised, and I don't know how quickly that has to happen, but it's something we need to start working on. The other thing I wanted to add on here is that in this ordinance, we're trying to stress education over enforcement. We do have fines of 0 to 350, but that's guidelines for the district judges if there's issues that go in front of them. It gives them a guide on what they can do. They could not fine anybody, you know, it's gonna be up to them, but it's a benchmark for them. So I wanted to point that out as well.
Any discussion on the motion to advertise with this one change? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Okay. I want to talk about the public hearing for a second. We understand that this is an issue that the public wants to weigh in on. And the original request from the public was to have a totally in-person meeting. Because of the governor's reopening guidelines, having a total in-person meeting would be limiting those who could participate, because the guidelines say that you have to minimum to the maximum number of people allowed is 20% of the maximum capacity for the facility that we're using. So we've been talking about the possibility of doing a hybrid meeting where we would have a meeting where we could have as many of the council members as possible who feel comfortable being in an in-person meeting. The rest of them would be virtual, as well as the public. We would then, once we determine how many of the staff, mayor, and council members would be present in person, we would determine from the site how many people we could accommodate in person in the room for the meeting. Everybody else could join in by a hybrid. And I talked to Don this afternoon, and there are some possibilities of possible places. What did you find out, Don?
Well, we have one possibility. I tried 3 places. I tried CPI. That's a no-go because they have the nursing program set up in that room, and they can't take it down. So they said for now they couldn't do it. I tried the Bellefonte Area High School, or actually school district, for either the high school auditorium, the middle school auditorium, the elementary school auditorium. They have a policy right now that no outside organizations are allowed to use any of their facilities. So I talked to Don Smith regarding Lambert Hall. That's really our only possibility unless anyone has any other ideas. The occupancy at Lambert Hall is 300, so you would be permitted to have 60 people there. It has enough 6 to 8 entry and exits, so you've got you meet your guidelines there. There's 2 restrooms that can handle a minimum of 6 people at a time, so you'd have enough room in the restrooms as well. So I think Lambert Hall is a possibility if you wanted to go there. If there's any other places that you want me to try calling, I'll be more than happy to.
How about the Match Factory? Is that too small?
I don't think they're having any.
Smaller than Lambert, I think, Doug, but they do have 2 exits. They got the one in from the main building and then one directly to the outside in that one room. I've been to a number of events down there. I would probably venture to guess that occupancy is about no more than 100.
Yeah, I don't think they're available right now. They've only have 15 people working there from APS. Everybody else working from home. I don't think they're doing anything inside the building. They've done all their, they just did a week-long sessions virtually this past week. They did their summer seminar virtually. So they're just not using the space for venues like that.
The other thing about Lambert Hall is parking. You have all the parking that you would need for people that did want to come from the public. That's all I could find out, Joanne, at this point.
Okay. So I think what we can do, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that Ralph and Don and Randy, the chair of the safety committee, and I could work together to craft the final plan and the date and time in coordination with Lambert Hall. And then once we get that information, we can do the advertising in the proper method. And note for the public that that reservations for the public participate would have to be done in advance on a first come, first service, because we do have to limit to if he's got the number right, to the 60 people, which includes council and maybe any security that we might have to have, plus the solicitor. So once we know that, we'll know how many public we can have, and then from that point, we can craft with CNET to do the live portion of the event as well.
So that total would include your CNET crew?
Yes.
If they're in the room, I mean, you know, they can do a lot of things virtually.
It depends on, that's one of the things we have to find out, is CNET will be present or not, and if so, how many?
My guess is you're going to have approximately room for 45 people from the public.
Mhm.
And given the last meeting we had and the number of people we're on, I mean, you might end up having enough, that might end up being enough room.
Yeah. Any more comments or questions or how to deal with this? Okay, so the four of us will get together and try to craft a plan for this. Any other old business? Okay, seeing none, move on to new business.
We put in a list of the draft meeting schedule dates for 2021. Just review those. You don't have to answer this evening. Let us know if you see anything that doesn't look correct. And then the next item is just a memo I put in about electric energy purchasing. I'm suggesting or recommending we try APPI, and I've listed a couple of reasons why in the memo. But whatever we do, the rates would not take effect until 2021 because of the current contract we're in.
So do we want a motion to approve APPI's assisting vendor starting when our current contract ends in 2021, but the vendor agreement will start as soon as possible?
I'll
make that motion. I'll second it.
Bracco and Johnson. Discussion?
Ralph, I think it's a good idea. I read what you had, what they had proposed, and I think there was something on there about the cost of different things and making sure it's included in there so it's not an add-on.
Right.
And I think also you want to make sure that you can't be increased during the contracted cycle. I don't remember the full language to that, but I've dealt with these for probably the last 12 years when I used to work. And I think the first year I did it, we had a savings of about $30,000.
Nice. I will check with the authority at their next regular meeting, and I'm optimistic we'll get them on board as well.
Okay. Yeah, anything that related to Bellefonte Borough is in good shape.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Any other new business? Any public comment? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Blackville.
I'll second it.
Blackville and Prendergast. Seeing no opposition, we're adjourned at 9:20.
Hallelujah.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody, go vote.
Night.
Thank you.
All those